Journalist Janet Silvera was the only Caribbean member to be a part of the 21-member delegation that has been invited to observe the United States election between Republican President Donald Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden. She joins us now to tell us about the experience. Morning, my friend. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Thank you.
Double-barrel question right up front. And even though I know what the word observe means, how did this come about? How did you get to be an observer? And exactly what does an observer do at an election?
Well, I was invited by a very strong, or should I say solid politician in Columbus, Ohio, who is involved with an organization called Democracy Win. Democracy Win's role is to try and get as many politicians from Latin America, rather, to experience what happens in the United States during an election. So many of the people who were on the trip were congresswomen, mayors of various cities, budding politicians, and political science students. There were at least 2 political science students, entrepreneurs, etc., etc. So the group was a large group, but diverse as well, but mainly from Latin America. I became a part of the group because the one Black person involved in it, his mother is Jamaican. So we have been talking for a few months now, and coming out of those talks, I was invited to be one of the observers. So I'm humbled and honored that I got the opportunity to serve in that fashion. So as an observer, we visited, for instance, the chief election officer, which is the Secretary of State for the Republican Party. We visited the polling station, the largest in the county, and we got an inside view of exactly how the process works. And let me tell you something. Those polling stations and where the polls are kept cannot be opened by just one person. It's almost like a safety deposit box where you need 2 persons. So one must be a Republican, one a Democrat, and the rest of the people from the electoral board. So there's a lot as it relates to transparency. And I found that it was very, very difficult for there to be any type of fraud, because each person who votes is given a barcode, and that barcode matches up. So for instance, if you send in, pardon me?
Keep going. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if you register as an absentee voter, and if you go to vote early, once that barcode comes up, there is no way that you can go back and vote. And if you sent in your ballot and you decide that you want to go in person, even if you go in person and they allow you to vote when you get there in person, that vote is not counted until 11 days after the election.
Okay.
So that is their way of ensuring that voter fraud does. So when I hear the president talking about voter fraud, it's pure talk. It's a way of riling up his supporters and getting them to go up against the system. But they have a pretty good system in place.
Any best practices that you believe we could mirror here in Jamaica?
Lots and lots. They have a manual. For instance, in Columbus, that they printed. I got a copy. I'm bringing it back to Jamaica. It tells you step 1, step 2, step all the way through the process. I would think that every time we have an election, before that election, we must start that public education campaign. All those things, they started from in the month of April. Once the pandemic kicked in, they put in that public education, public awareness campaign where all persons were aware. For instance, they have all these forms. And I'm going to show you some of them. Your absentee ballot form. They have long before the election, you have these official general election ballot with all the people who are running. For instance, if you want to become a commissioner, you have to go on the ballot. If you want to become an appeals court judge, you have to go on the ballot. So it's the people who choose. It's not any politician who chooses these people. And those are things that I would love to see happen. The 20 election early voting hours, all this information is accessible. You go to that website and you're able to find everything. And that book that they have created, a lot of us could learn from that book that has been printed by the group. If you notice, the Ohio votes were in early, even though 3.4 million persons had voted early. But because they were so equipped to deal with the ballots, in no time those were counted.
I don't know if you know, but you mentioned what the president is doing now.
Yes.
But where is that? Because I was reading this morning that he has sued about 3 states and they have stopped counting. Where is that right now?
The president is suing everywhere. There's several, thousands of lawsuits that are being filed by the president. And it's understandable as well, by the way. The people who vote for you expect you to file lawsuits. They want you to fight for them. So he's fighting for his people.
Yeah, but the lawsuit is for what? Him don't agree with the numbers?
For many things, he's filing because he doesn't want them to continue to count the votes. So he wants them to stop counting at this time. Because he feels that the election has been rigged. He thinks it is fraud. He feels that those who have won should not have won. So he's putting out, he's filing lawsuits against people who have voted.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you who you want to win, but from what you've been seeing and hearing, who do you think will win?
Well, for me, it looks more like Joe Biden at this time. The last figures that I saw were 264 from the Electoral College for Joe Biden. And that means you would need only 6.
Right.
Joe Biden has also made history.
Yep.
He's the first candidate to have gotten so many votes.
Yeah, even more than Obama.
In a U.S. election.
But what do you think about that?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Janet? That in this COVID time, it didn't deter voters from participating. No. That it's a record number in COVID time.
Yes, but too, a lot of people voted, did their absentee ballots.
Yeah.
There was a lot of mail-in votes, There was a lot of that because it allowed them. And I'm sure that Trump, in the beginning, agreed that, okay, if you don't want to go to Trump himself has always voted by mail-in votes.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it surprising that he is objecting now to mail-in votes.
Yep.
It's a part of what the United States is known for.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are certain states that don't do it.
Yeah. Janet, I congratulate you on being the first Caribbean and only Caribbean woman to be there. I hope that incredible question that Delia asked about best practices, I hope when you get back, and I'm being very serious, that the powers that be will sit with you. And hopefully we could get some of those best practices here. So my word, so plenty arms house don't go on when we have our election. Stay safe, and thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Pleasure, a pleasure.
Take care.
Janet Silvera, award-winning Gleaner journalist, by the way. Do you know who really selects the Prime Minister in Jamaica? Well, we'll find out after the break. Soon come.